We should never allow the government to decide what is acceptable speech and what is unacceptable speech. We should penalize behaviors, not opinions, and not speech. If you start trying to regulate speech, you start trying to regulate thoughts, you start trying to regulate beliefs rather than behaviors, there's no way that you're not going to abridge the constitutional rights of millions of Americans.
Recently, I was lucky enough to find a Samaritan's purse shirt at my Goodwill store, and I have begun giving some donations to them because they're helping people in northern Syria. And anybody that knows anything about my videos knows that it's all centered around that little boy in Omran who lives in Aleppo. And even though right now his people are not being bombed by the Russians of course are attacking Ukraine and several other countries, and I know that they're actually attacking some areas near the Syrian border with Turkey. And I'm trying to give some money to help those people. And felt like I would do this short video just to tell you all that though I can't give money directly to Omran's family, there's just really no way to get money into his country at all. I'm trying to indirectly help groups that go into various nations that are suffering, like in Ukraine, in Syria, in even areas of other Islamic or Middle East itself, like in Iran, Iraq, and that's the Samaritan's Purse. And this is an organization that was first started by Billy Graham. And when he died, his son Franklin continued the work. And when I sent my first donation, I wrote a letter to them because they sent a letter back to me thanking me for the money. And I told them, I said, I'm doing this to help, trying to help indirectly little Omran's people in Aleppo, in Damascus, throughout Syria. And honestly, if anybody sees this video and you might be wondering about why I'm doing this, and you might work for Samaritan's Purse, I'm not going to list any of this on my taxes because I don't intend for any of this to be something that either I profit from or I can write it off my income taxes. I'm giving donations because I love that little boy and I love his people. And God tells us in His Word, love you one another. It doesn't say love you one another and make a profit off of it, or love you one another and make some kind of an assistance to somebody else and then you profit from it or get money back. I don't make money even from any of my videos that I post on YouTube. I think people figure, oh, he's making a killing off of these videos. I don't make any money. Now the socialists and the communists would say, oh, that's stupid, you should be making profits off of everything you do. And it's like, there are some things in this world that are more important than money. And for people who don't care about life or anything else, you would say, well, you're an idiot, you should be making money, whatever. And I'm like, there are things more important in this world than money. And someday the people who have advocated for abortion, they're going to stand before God and they're going to answer for it. And I tell you, you never want to be in anybody's shoes where you had anything to do with a person killing another person, taking another person's life. Thinking about that reminds me of this movie I saw. It was called Mosquito Coast. Anybody that's a fan of River Phoenix, this was an actor that died, as far as I understand. I'm not sure of all the circumstances, but he was in that movie, and he starred alongside Harrison Ford as a family that left America to get away from the corruption, from the selfishness of America itself, how people only look at themselves and they care about themselves and nothing else. And there was this one scene where he was an inventor and he created this machine that created ice, and he was able to siphon off all that cold air because he was living somewhere in South America, and he was able to air condition his own house without electricity. He used chemical interaction or a chemical reaction to create ice, and he gave it to people in that community, in that village, for free. He didn't pay or charge them anything for that. And here's what's sad. At one point, there was these two guys that show up, and they were going to take over the whole business. They were going to make money off of it. And the reason I remember it is because there was some music that was used in the film, and it was by Maurice Jarre. And The song was used later in an excerpt that was done by Tracy Lee, who was a rap artist, and it was called Repentance. And it is the saddest sequence of music I've ever heard. So I went back, and though they didn't use it in the movie, I tried to piece together where in the film it would have appeared. And it was during the sequence when these two guys were trying to hijack this inventor's operations of making ice. They were killed in the machine because of greed. They wanted so much to buy or use his invention to make money for themselves. And they ended up getting trapped in the machine, and they were killed. And I think the point of it was to say greed is nothing more than selfish vanity, but it ended up costing those two men their lives in that movie. And when I think about the tragedy of that story from Mosquito Coast, if you haven't seen it, you ought to watch it. This is just a very down-to-earth film about one man who took his family out of America because he was so sick of how humanity had gotten to the level, and it's very relevant because right now this country is exactly like that, how they showed it even in the 80s, and that's when the film was made. That people are so selfish about themselves that people don't look at the good in humanity. They don't look at what's really important, and that's about preserving life, about love and respect for each other. That's what Mosquito Coast was as a movie. And it really took a story like that and some music that I heard from a rap artist to make me appreciate that life is precious and that all people matter. And that's why I'm giving to Samaritan's Purse, because I want to help people too. I want to try to reach out to them and help them. But no video I post have ever made me money on YouTube in all the years that I've been on YouTube. And because of communism, because of socialism, they force people out and off their site, because you cannot express yourself anymore without the socialists dictating to you what you can say and what you can't say, and even what you're allowed to think about, what you're allowed to believe. And in every video, if you watch, if you've seen any of them, you'll see this guy that comes on and says, we should never allow the government to restrict our beliefs. We should never allow them to restrict our freedom of speech, our thoughts, or anything. Because he says when they can do that, he says it means they've already stripped away our freedoms as Americans. They've stripped away the Constitution and our Bill of Rights. And it means all of the things that we always cherished as a nation are gone. And it's an inevitable fact in the next 5 years, with Joe Biden as president of this country, there won't be any economy. And the liberals wanted this, the progressives wanted this, the homosexual community wanted all this. And now they've got it. You see, and they had to manipulate everything about our government system to get their way. And that's why, for me and a lot of other people, I'm sure, who feel the same way, we're disconnecting from our country. We're disconnecting from our society because it is so totally screwed up now that we know we can't make a difference anymore. We cannot vote. We cannot choose what we do with our lives because they've already shown us that everything we thought was in place is gone. And until we can no longer be allowed to even own a gun anymore, that's why you have all these events happening about gun violence. Indirectly, one way or the other, socialists are behind this. And why? Because they want to instigate martial law. Martial law, it means the government itself stops. Martial law instigates and strips away a person's Second Amendment right to protect themselves, strips away our country's election system, which they've already proven is a complete shambles. It doesn't work. It doesn't function. And when it happens, when they strip everything away from us, you won't have anybody else to blame but yourself. Because you took the attitude of, I don't care, and I'm not going to do anything about it. So that's why our country is the way it is now. But to get back to what I was trying to say in this video, life matters, and it really took a little 3-year-old boy to make us all realize that. And it happened 6 years ago. And I'm telling you, people are still talking about Omran. They still go on my webpage on Facebook. They still want to know what's happening with his people, what's happening to him. And in 6 years' time, it has proven beyond a doubt, people still care. People still love children who are hurt all over the world. And it was Omran that brought it to the world's attention. And that's why they're still interested. Because it's like our country cares nothing about people. I know the Supreme Court overruled Roe versus Wade, but I still say it's a ploy, it's an end to a means for them to get their way and to continually bring about the New World Order, communism, socialism. And when it suits them, they'll manipulate things and make it look like they're trying to make it better. But in long-term fact, it's not for the good of anything except their ultimate plan, and that's world domination, the destruction of our country, the destruction of the economies of the world, to create the convergence of a new world order, a one world government. Then all the countries of the world will have all the money the United States had at one time. And I believe that for blacks, for Latinos, for liberals, progressives, in 2020, the socialists said to them, you're going to get everything that everybody else has had, because we're going to strip it away from them, and we're going to give it to who we think should have it. And if you laugh, you forget what Barack Obama told Joe the plumber in 2009. What you own is mine, what you have is mine, and I'm going to decide who gets it and who doesn't. And people probably just kind of shrugged that off their shoulder and said, that's not going to happen. We're at that point where the communists have proven to the United States people that private ownership is about to go out the window. We don't have freedom anymore. We don't have the right to even our own possessions, because that's what proletariat lifestyle is. You are what the government says you are. They're going to take what you have and they're going to decide what happens to it. And I would even so go far as to say that includes your children, that includes your life. If you don't believe it, critical race theory has been taught in the school system for 30 years. What's that done to a child's mind in all those years? We're talking about those same people who are now in their 30s, who are having children, and they themselves have no concept anymore than they did as children growing up, because they were already being taught this stuff by the government, by the socialists, by the Communist Party. And I tell you, God's return is soon. And if you don't believe it, just keep watching. And one day you'll wake up, there's going to be a lot of people gone. A lot of people going to disappear. Today I posted on Twitter a photograph from a comic book called There's a New World Coming. What it is, it has to do with the rapture and the Great Tribulation. It was printed back in 1974 by Spire Christian Comics. And I'm telling you, every day we see more and more of that same stuff already happening in this world. And it's not a coincidence, because God told us about it 2,000 years ago. That's our country, folks, right now. In this country, we are falling into a pit, and there's no way to get out of it now. And if you vote in the next midterm elections in November, all you're doing is you're playing the socialist game. You're playing Miranda. You're doing what they tell you to do. That's what it's about. You're doing what they say, and it doesn't matter what happens. You just say, well, let them do whatever they're going to do. I don't care anymore. So, inflation is just the beginning of socialism, and the next step will be recession. Recession then becomes what nobody else will believe, because you don't want to believe, and that's the depression. The depression begins the New World Order, because then all the countries of the world will be in that same situation. There will be no economy, there will be no money, and then the New World Order takes over and says, we're going to give you what we think you should have, and you're going to be happy because you gave everything to us when you put Joe Biden in the White House, when you wanted Barack Obama, when you put him in the White House in 2009, that started the entire process. And so now, there's nothing else anybody really can do. You just sit, pay your taxes, pretend it isn't happening, watch your children get older, and guess what? They are the prodigies of what will be this new world order. And they'll be controlled mentally through a microchip. They'll be mentally controlled as they have been through critical race theory. And as a parent, you got no say about it. You got no choice in the matter. You're just going to have to accept it, and that's the end of the whole equation. There's no other option. There's no plan B. There's no plan C. This is what the socialists wanted, and now they've got it. And the United States people have no say at all of what happens to our country's future. There might be patriots out there, but I think all of us were proven that we don't have patriotism when the government puts out armed government military to stop people from protesting the election, and then uses the Antifa people to create the illusion that it was all Trump's fault, that he did it, that the Republican Party is responsible for the so-called insurgency. You know what? That's a lie. It was not anybody but the Socialist Democrats. They put those people in there, and they did it. And that's what you have to realize and live with, because now there is nobody else except Jesus Christ coming back who can save this world. And until he does come back, the Bible says the Antichrist will rule for 7 years. And it'll be the worst nightmare. It won't even make the Holocaust look like anything. They said that Hitler he'll look like a choir boy compared to the Antichrist. When he comes in power, there's going to be nothing left of the world. And if Jesus hadn't come back, he said there would be no life saved on this planet. There'd be no life saved on the earth. So that's what we face, folks, right now today in America.
Rated PG-13.
Hi, I'm George Lucas. In my past 40 years of motion picture making, no subject has so inspired me as this story that happened in August 2016. The world saw a 3-year-old boy on global networks, and it really touched my heart. So much so that I had to tell his story. His name is Omran. His story is real. It happened. I'm telling this story because millions of other children just like Omran are still being hurt in war-torn countries resulting from neglect, illness, and uncaring masses. We must remember them all. You won't be leaving the movie theater without a tear in your eyes. I hope you'll come.
Rated PG 13.